Hello everyone, I'm Alfian and today we're going to solve the Hackerrank challenge on the problem solving section called the counting valleys. And for the challenge, it describes an avid hiker keeps meticulous records of their hikes during the last hike that took exactly many steps. For every step, it was noted if it was an uphill or resembled by the U sign or a downhill resembles by the D sign. Hikes always start and end at sea level, and each step up or down represent a 1 unit change in altitude. So let's say if we meeting the U, then we increase the altitude by 1. If we meet the D, then the altitude will decrease by 1. And we shall define the following terms. A mountain is a sequence of consecutive steps above sea level, starting with a step up from sea level and ending with a step down to the sea level. And let's say if we have a 0 altitude which resembles the sea level, if we increase by 1 and then down again by 1, then we are going to meet another sea level, or we're back to the sea level that is considered a mountain. And a valley is the one that is the opposite from the mountain. So it starts with the -1 from the sea level and then ends with +1 that leads to 0 elevation of the sea level, which is 0. And given the sequence of up and down steps during a hike, find the print the number of valleys walked through. So let's say we have 8 steps or 8 paths that resembles D, D, U, 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 and then D, D. And it says the hiker first enters a valley 2 units deep. That's why it resembles a double D right here. -1 and then -1 again. And then they climb out and up onto the mountain 2 units high on the end of the sequence right here. And finally the hiker returns to sea level and ends the hike. And without further ado, let's solve this. And the constraint says the minimum of 2 steps up until the 10 of the exponent of 6. And the path is a string that consists of just U and D, and then it represents as a string on the path right here. And the steps is 8 as the first input right here, and the sample output is 1. Why is it 1? Is because if you look over here, the visualization, it starts with 0 and then it has 1 mountain, and because mountain is not being counted and we should count only the number of valleys that the traveler or the hiker has been passed, so it only records the valley from starting from below 0 of the sea level and ends up to the 0 again to the sea level, and so it's only recorded as 1. Okay, so without further ado, let's solve this by declaring the console.log to see the variable of the parameter right here, and console.log the path. And then since we are using a TypeScript, it should return a number from the function, then we can pass in just 0. So let's run the code and let's see what those parameters are about. And this is the debug output from the console.log, the steps in the form of number and the string right here. So we get the idea, and then we have to declare a for loop to iterate the path of the string to check if it's an up or a down. If it's up, then we increase the elevation by 1 or the level by 1, and then if it's down, then we decrease the elevation by 1. But first, let's declare our altitude, name altitude in the form of let variable, and it represents 0 to define the first altitude that we start right here. And let's iterate this. Let I equals 0 as long as I is below these steps, then I plus plus. And let's see if the path, since it's a string, then we can iterate it like an array. If the path I is equals to up, then we increase the altitude by 1. Else, if it's not, then if it's a down, then we decrease the altitude by 1, using the altitude minus minus sign. And then to see how the for loop works, we can declare every iteration with the console.log. They're diagnosing the altitude right here, every iteration. So let's run the code again. And yeah, the one is supposed to be up and then down for the next iteration, which is 0, and then decrease by 1 again, down right here. And it's all considered a value because it's in a form of minus sign and ending with 0, and it should consider just one value because we are starting from 0 and then minus up until we reach back to the sea level. So let's declare something to check if it's value equals to false by default. And then we can add a check if the current altitude is below the sea level, and we add another check if we are not in the valley yet by using the negative is value. If it is, then we can consider the is value to true. You can use the coarse sign or the coarse operator to flip the Boolean operator, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just using the traditional is value is equals to true or is value equals to false. And we can add another check if the altitude is equals 0 and we are from the inside the valley and we are from the -1 below the sea level. If it is, then we can return the is value to false, and we should count the valley counter by 1. Let's define our valley counter. By default it's 0, so let's return the valley counter. And that way, if we reach the sea level after we were below the sea level, from the, let's say from the -1 reaches the 0 altitude, then the valley counter is increased by 1. So let's run the code to see if it works, and let's submit this. Okay, so it all passed, and congratulations. But if you notice, it is from my raw implementation. I have another way to solve this by eliminating this if else check and this console.log. We eliminate the is value boolean check and the console log right here to make our implementation more light, and we can simply just add inside the if else. If we are going upwards, which is increasing the altitude by 1, we can add a check if the altitude is equals to 0. It resembles that we are increasing our altitude from -1 to 0. So that's why I am inserting it inside this if check right here. If we are going only upwards, then we can simply increase our valley counter to 1. Okay, so let's run the code again to see if it works. And it does the same thing to the previous implementation. Okay, so that's about it. I hope you understand this explanation. If you have not understand, then you can ask me in the comment section, or if you have any better solutions, you can tell us in the comment section. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.